Hey, what's up, Liron here. Thought I'd do a more low production value kind of video and just do this one handheld, no tripod. I want to talk to you today about one of my most original paintings. The title is a clickbait. It's not my most creative or most original painting, but one of them for sure. And I want to talk a bit more about tackling challenging subjects, and I'm gonna explain why in just a second. So let me flip over the camera. I'll show you what I've got on my desk. So here is my the painting in question. You may have seen this one on Instagram or other places. I haven't shared it everywhere, actually, just there and on Twitter. And you might notice something a little strange about this one, and that is, in my table, you get an authentic view of my messy table, but I'm gonna move these stuff aside. So you may notice it's off. It's rotated, it's diagonal. So I was going through a folder of reference photos I had, and then I came upon some photos I took during our vacation in Sorrento in Italy. And this photo was actually oriented this way. The photo, I looked at it, was like this. And I thought to myself, that would be really cool to actually paint it as it is diagonally and force the poor soul who'll have to frame and hang this up to figure out how to do that. Now that I rotated it, actually looks quite cool like that. So that's actually nice. It actually looks good. But it is meant to be oriented this way. So let me give you a bit of a... Can I zoom out? Yeah, okay. So here we go. I don't know why I was trying so hard. This phone has really wide lens, so I can do this. So yeah, very happy with how it turned out. And we're going to talk about some details in just a moment, but I do want to mention how I think this is really one of my most original works, just because of that weird orientation. I'm actually curious to see if anyone will purchase it. I will put it on the gallery, and just to see how people will hang it. Like, I mean, it could look pretty cool on the wall like this, actually, but I think you'll have to put it in a frame and then have two things here on the sides maybe to hang it diagonally. But in any case, let's jump into a bit of the process and the technique. So I'm going to give you a bit of an up-close look here. This is the part I'm most proud of, funny enough, because this actually stayed unchanged from the very initial wash. So let me show you up close. Sorry if the camera is a little shaky. That's the trade-off I will learn for next time. I do think this has a bit of an effect of... It's my iPhone camera, but I think it should minimize some of the shakiness. So yeah, just to give you an up-close look, this stayed the same as the first wash. This is different. I did add a bit more here, but I love that, and I forced myself to push this to be very dark. It felt almost like using completely black color because the paper was so wet. So just to talk a bit about the process, I did an initial wash covering everything top to bottom, and here I really pushed the darks. And then I started building this area from top to bottom in probably 2 layers and then a layer of details and kind of opaque paint. So why do I refer to maybe this one and other paintings as challenging? What you'll notice is there isn't really any sharp sunlight here. And that usually is, and let me rotate it a bit this way. And that usually people find it a bit more challenging to paint because you don't have clear shapes. If you really squint your eyes, it's very hard to identify the clear shapes in this one. And so what this means is that getting the accurate value for every area is actually quite important. So what I did was open this up in Photoshop and sample the different values from the main areas. So the sky, got a value for this little building, the dark spots, these several buildings, because there was some difference in their values. And then I tried to match it as closely as I could, and I tried contrasting it against a very dark value and against white to really figure it out, because what you may be hard to notice, but this is actually darker than the sky, funny enough. So, or this area, right? This area is like the sky, it's similar. It's just a thin wash of very pale blue. And this area is actually similar to value for the sky as well. It's not white. This is an area left... Or was it left untouched? No, I actually went over everything with that blue wash. And by the way, they're drilling outside again, so sorry if that comes through. It's going to be one of the lowest production videos I did recently, so forgive me about that. But in any case, yeah, so the values here are very confusing and misleading. Things may seem a little darker when they're lighter and vice versa.
So the bottom line is turn the photo black and white, sample, compare to black and compare to white, because a very dark value can look quite light next to black. So it really gives you some perspective, right? And then it's all about technique. I started with an even wash as much as I could, but then I went ahead and filled it in area by area, which is what you see here, while skipping some highlights that are highlights, the blue of the first wash. And then I added another layer of details. Now, just to talk a bit about the wash for the sky, because it's a rather large piece, it's a bit larger than my usual, and you can compare it to the size of the palette. A big focus for me was getting that angle, so I turned the entire desk a little higher. So that the paint moves more, and mixing a lot. I did get lucky because I did have to remix some areas, but look at how nice it turned out due to the angle. And you can actually see that I painted it at this angle rather than the most accurate one, but that's fine. Got lucky, everything went down nicely, and if you look at this section, I actually really like it. So that's for the sky. And then I started adding the details and the touches of opaque paint, and slowly but surely this came together. It wasn't easy because, once again, the subtle values. Now, let's talk about subtle colors, because the original reference photo also had very subtle color shifts in it. So if you're going to use anything straight out of the tube or something like this, God forbid, it will immediately skew everything. So you really have to be careful and be very strategic as to where you're using these stronger colors. Let me do this, yeah. And so I did use a bit of a stronger color for this rooftop and here to create a nice, interesting contrast. But everything else you see is just a variation of my primary colors. Very basic. I tried for once to stick to the original colors I saw in the reference photo rather than try and change them too much. And yeah, this is the result. So I really hope you enjoy seeing this. A bit more of a challenging painting. Really very proud of how the ripples and all of the details here came out. I think it's really nice. I think the feeling of depth is there. I like these splashes against the rocks. And yeah, just overall proud of this one, because when you're able to, and let me rotate, when you're able to nail the values for a painting in which they're not as obvious, I find that to be a big win. And it is my go-to to go to strong contrast, strong sunlight, because that's what I like. But once in a while, I think I love and enjoy doing this kind of work. And I also think it's enjoyable to challenge yourself in that way. And I will add to that I just was dying to do something a little different, which is why I went for this strange angle. I really felt like varying it up a bit, felt like I'm painting the same too much. And so sometimes you'll get that feeling and then you have to really listen to yourself and go for it, which is why I always say, again, don't listen to my advice. Follow whatever you feel. Sometimes it's very spontaneous, very in the moment. You have to be very sensitive to yourself and what you want, and I think that's a big takeaway from here. That's what I felt like I wanted at the moment, and so I went for it, and I couldn't be happier with the result. I hope you enjoyed this quick, spontaneous one. Sorry for the shakiness. If it is too much, I will make sure to film with my proper video camera next time. But in any case, take care, and I will see you on Thursday's live stream.